Welcome to another episode of Jobs Out the Box. Very, very happy to be here today. Your host, Lionel Bourgeois, together with my co-host, Peliso Sebole, and of course the beautiful Yuta Ferreira, who's joined us as a wildlife photographer and many other things that you are going to share with us that you do. Very, very good episode of Jobs Out the Box. So Yuta, tell us. So you're a wildlife photographer, amongst being an anti-tracking and working with the poaching unit. You do so many things. So tell us a little bit about how did your job initially come about?
Right. So these are many stories that all go into one another.
Okay.
Primarily, I am a wildlife photographer, and I have been for the past, I would say professionally, for the past 15 years at least now. But you don't just become a wildlife photographer, it's a process.
Yes.
Okay. I've been working in conservation for a very long time.
Okay.
I used to work with white shark conservation and research.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of projects around the world trying to convert people from hating them to loving them.
Oh, nice.
Because
Yes.
after the Jaws,
film industry,
after the Jaws movie,
yeah.
the great white shark became public enemy #1.
Yes.
And
Very sad, yeah.
and the numbers were diminishing across the world through trophy hunting mainly, and pure hate really. So trying to reverse those effects of the film industry,
Changing the minds of people as well.
yeah, especially children. We had to work a lot with children and schools and those type of projects, you know. And we did research programs around the South African coastline mainly, but also some smaller research projects on the great white shark in other places in the world.
Okay. Wow.
So I was involved in that. We did a big population dynamic study along the South African coastline about the sex and size ratio of the great white sharks for many years, right? Now, the sea is beautiful and I love it. And I love everything in it.
Yes.
But I also have this deep and passionate love for terra firma.
Yes.
So the animals on land are very attractive to me, and I think that for many years I kept on pushing, going into the bush, going into the bush, and I wanted to camp. I wanted to be right there in the sand and the soil with animals walking through my camp. Then I was at my happiest.
So the city wasn't really your thing, eh?
The city isn't my thing. I like the city. I mean, I don't mind going to the movies, going for a good drink at a nice bar, and I don't have a problem with that. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I love everything, really. But I've come to the conclusion now, I think, in my life that I'm living in the city, going to the bush. It should be the opposite. I should be living in the bush, going to the city.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but that wasn't really functional when we had kids growing up and all that. But they're big now, so they don't need me anymore, and therefore I can now do what I want. And I may actually end up living in the bush somewhere.
So Mama Bear wants to be right out there.
Mama Bear wants to be the Mama Bear in the bush.
Okay. And what? Okay.
Yeah. So basically that that spurred on my passion more and more for being in the bush and being with the wild animals. And you know, you get yourself a camera and you're taking photographs. I took photographs of the great whites as well, but it was very intriguing for me to be out in the wild with the animals. And with that, I started with animal communication as part of connecting with the animals.
Okay.
Cool.
And this was something that I did as a child very much, automatically. I think a lot of children do.
What a
They
gift.
have the natural
It's a
gravitation.
natural
Wow.
thing.
Wow.
They you know, Dr. Dolittle, the
Yes.
kids talk, and you know what? I think that in reality, that isn't very far-fetched. It is
Wow.
it is what people do.
And you telling the truth today.
And the thing is that when I was a kid, it was to me, I was talking to the animals, I understood everything. I was talking to ants and everything, and I had no problem with that. And people, you know, as a child also, you have the platform to do it because people don't necessarily tell you that it's wrong
True.
because you're just a child.
They're letting you be.
Yes, so, but then comes a different time in life and you talk to boys more than you talk to animals. And
It keeps you safe.
You lose that focus.
so you lose the focus, and then so you go through that process. And but then starting to go back into the bush, the way I did, I also felt the need to connect better to the animals,
Okay.
and more than I did just automatically. So I took a few courses in animal communication. We have some of the best animal communicators in the world in South Africa.
Wow.
And
We might have to interview one of them.
and
Something
it is
new.
a profession. It is a true profession, and they are very useful in the conservation of wildlife, and also for domestic animals.
Okay.
Because you can help animals in distress, and you
Yes.
can help owners of pets in distress as well.
Yeah, it's more like sorting out the owners. Yes.
So I started working with new techniques that would allow me to connect faster and easier to the animals, so that I think that when you had a look at my pictures, you might have picked up the feeling that you connect with the animals in the picture.
The pictures that you sent us were extraordinary.
I felt
I mean,
the
Thank you.
connection.
you honestly could feel the connection, and even
true.
Peliso said, but isn't she going to be attacked or bitten or anything like that? And we said, no,
And the loves explain it,
it
you know,
is,
as she
it's-
says.
Yeah,
quite
so the whole thing is that you connect with the animal and you are there on their terms, and you are accepted in that space.
Wow.
Which means that I can often be very close. Not
Sounds
being
like
stupid.
heaven.
I'm not going to go and sit on the lap of a lion.
Well, I mean, there was one picture that you were kissing leopards.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. And they were in fact wild.
Oh, well, there we
And
go.
there's a long story to that, so we're not
Okay.
going to go into that. We don't have, we'll have to do a separate program on
Yeah.
that one. But the thing is that, so you ask permission before you take the photographs.
Wow.
And the
The
moment
respect of the space.
And the
There we go.
moment that you get that, something happens
Mm.
in the animal, and they start doing beautiful things.
Wow.
Just because they are so okay with you being there, and they are very willing to give messages to you. Might sound a bit weird for people that are not involved in this,
No, sure,
but it is a
sounds-
fact, and you know, we all communicate with vibration.
Yes,
you
correct.
know, you can walk into a room and you can feel that something is going on there. There's somebody has argued
right
in that
or feels
room
wrong.
sense
because
of
it's
it.
like, oh, and what is that? That is all
Quite
vibrations.
correct, yes.
And so we communicate that you can meet a person, you can immediately like that person. Why do
Yeah.
I like that person
Yeah.
so much? It's the vibration of that person, it's the
Correct.
love and the
energy.
genuinity. So likewise it is with animals. So the moment you have that connection, you also start picking up emotions from them, because emotions are also vibrations, right?
Yes.
So you start picking that up, and we as beings translate that into what we understand. So my interpretation might be slightly different from yours, being with the same animal, but it will be in the same
The same, wave.
the same way, yeah. So that's really the reason why you're picking up that intensity in the pictures, is because the animals actually want to participate, and I'm usually very close,
They're
and
open-spirited,
so we have a communication going.
Oh, fabulous.
And some of the
Fascinating.
and a lot of the pictures that I exhibit, they also come with a story of exactly what happened there and what the animals were communicating, or what I was experiencing. It's different for each picture.
But again, when we think of when somebody says wildlife photographer, the immediate thing, is you go out in the bush and you take pictures of wildlife.
Yeah.
Now you've painted a completely different
Yeah.
picture of what goes on, which I don't know, it sends shivers down my body and say, wow, I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really really exciting.
It is very exciting, and yes, you can sit with a 600mm lens and you can take a picture of a beautiful leopard that has got even no clue that you're there.
Yes,
And to me, that can be a beautiful picture, but to me that doesn't mean anything.
correct.
Because I want the animal.
connection.
You see, my reason for wildlife photography in the first place is to build bridges. You want to build bridges between them and us. You want to create love. Because what you love and understand, you are less likely
To feel threatened by
it.
The animals doesn't know that you're taking it, so you're taking something.
Without
Correct,
knowing.
without permission.
Yeah.
Yes.
without
Do you do that
knowing.
with people when you want to take a photograph of somebody? You say, "Can I take a photograph of you?"
You ask
Some people
permission.
say, "No, I don't want to," or other people say, "Sure."
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So the animals are the same.
They want permission.
That's that's very important.
So when we say we take pictures, yes, we do. But can we just ask permission? Can we
Permission.
be a little bit
Yeah.
more gentle in our approach to and have respect for the creatures that we are approaching and taking pictures of? I'm not saying it's wrong to take a picture
No,
from
no, no,
far away,
I
I'm not
understand, yeah.
saying that, but
Yeah,
To
it's
obtain
a
the
response.
connection,
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do. It's like paying a TV license. the
especially
right
if
thing
you
to
are close to the animals, because you often see pictures where the animal's looking
do.
like
Yes.
this or like
Yeah.
that. And that is why, because the animal is apprehensive,
Yes.
doesn't know what you want.
Whereas in your pictures, there was none of that.
There's
It
none
was-
of that.
no,
There
it
there
was
is no
just-
barrier.
No, it was just love.
They were open.
It's just
It was
love.
so
Love and
open.
acceptance.
Yeah,
Mm.
love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not saying that everybody must do that, but it is something that when I take people with me and teach them about photography in the bush of wildlife, then that is something that I want them to know
Yeah.
and learn and start taking photographs without it. And then after a couple of days, take your new photographs and compare. Which one are you going to put up on your
Right.
wall at home?
Yes, yes, yes,
It's the one where you have a connection,
yes.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So people come home and they feel happy with what they got because they really.
Yeah, that's the connection.
It's an
that's the-
addition
yeah.
to just a beautiful photograph.
Yeah.
It's something.
How does one get to sign up? Like you're saying that sometimes you do take people along and you teach them how to do it. How does one sign up and get a hold of you, because you look like the real person for this job?
You would go to my website.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Perfect.
my website is very informative. Actually, you
Yes.
can read a lot about what I do in
Okay.
general, about the wildlife photography, about the animal communication, and also about the trips that I do.
Yeah.
And you know, I can make any trip happen, but there are certain trips that I have on my site,
Yeah.
but there are other, you can do anything. You know, I could go anywhere. It doesn't
Sure,
matter.
Sure. So Jutta, what is the process? In other words, if you want to become a wildlife photographer, so the audience can know, what is the whole process? I mean, how do you start out? And what do you need? And I mean, I remember we chatted, you know, outside the studio,
Yeah.
and you know, it's a lot more involved than one thinks.
Yeah, I think being a photographer is knowing your camera, knowing your equipment, and then you choose your specific direction. You know, some people want to take pictures of buildings, and other ones
Okay.
take pictures of people, and wedding photographers, God knows what you know. I think for me it was very much, I'm not trained in a school, and I think most photographers that work like I do, they're not trained. It's you self-taught, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it starts with a passion and an interest for if it is wildlife you want to do,
Okay.
then it's your passion that will drive you to go to the
Where
bush.
your heart leads you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you want to take photographs, you need a camera,
Yes.
and to come home with anything that is not just a blur, you need a bit of knowledge.
Yes.
So you start off, I mean, there are lots of little photography courses. There are
Okay.
proper photography courses,
Yes.
you know, if you want to go that route and become like an educated photographer, you can do that.
Could you name a few for us, maybe?
I don't know, because I never went to any.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But
mean, we can
there
certainly,
are,
we can,
there-
like, people
Yeah.
can
But
Google
there
it and find
definitely
out, yeah.
are official courses that span over a year or two, you know, which if you want to go that route, that's also very nice. Then you got the base of everything, and
Yes.
from there you can decide what you want to take photographs of, right? So I think the basic knowledge of the camera is very important.
Yeah.
There are also wonderful courses online
Mhm.
that you can learn nowadays. You can do anything online.
Yeah.
True.
The
So
easier way.
so you
Yeah.
can. Some of them are free. There are a lot of little free courses that you can do, and settings on cameras, and you
And
just
these will just all add up to
to the you
the
see
practice.
with being a photographer, it's about practice.
Yes.
Practice. Taking photographs. Why is this photograph not good? Why can I hardly see the lion in the picture?
Yeah.
Well, what did I do wrong here? And you know, and then you learn from your mistakes.
Correct.
That's how you learn.
On the job learning.
On the job learning, but obviously with the basic knowledge of the camera and about shutter speeds and apertures
Okay.
and things like that, you develop you know,
The
your own skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can take a long time. I think you know, you never finish learning.
Correct. So
These-
sorry, no, go for it.
Oh yeah. So like these sounds like a lot of tips, but what is the big tip for you for people to use in their own journey in this career path?
Discover your passion
Okay.
Uh-huh.
is number one. What do you want? What does your heart tell you? What do you want?
And to listen to that.
And to say, and then you think, I love animals. I want to be with animals. Okay, well, how can I do that?
Okay.
Do I want to be a photographer, or do I want to work with them, or do I want to be a vet, a wildlife vet? Why not?
Why not?
Or do I want to be a ranger? There are so many different ways. Do I want to be a conservation officer? You know, there are many different things. What is it that you want? That's number one.
Correct.
Once,
But that's the reason why Jobs Out the Box has come up, because
Yeah.
we're saying, you want to study conservation, environmental conservation, but you don't really know what you can do with that
No.
or what else is available.
Yeah.
And this is why you're here today,
Yeah.
to tell us,
Yeah.
no, guys, there's a whole world
Yeah.
out there in
there is,
conservation.
there is.
And, all you've got to do is go out there and explore and see what's going to really fit you the best, as it has for you. I mean, so you do wildlife photography and you do the anti-tracking, you're part of the poaching unit. And so you've developed into a whole lot more than just photography.
Yes.
But I remember you telling us earlier, not at the interview, but that it's not an easy business to be in.
No, it's not a business that's ever going to make you rich
Uh-huh.
unless you end up in the top, like 100, which is very hard because there's a lot of really good wildlife photographers out there, photographers in general. You can make good money if you end up, like wedding photography can be very profitable.
Okay. In
But
this
then it's also very intense and maybe not that stimulating.
Yeah.
Correct.
But it depends on what you like. Nobody can say what you like is right or wrong. It is a heart condition.
comes from you.
So I think try to figure out what it is that you want. And if it is conservation, if it is animals, okay, let's say it's animals, then what is it within the animal range that I can do? So like we said, you can become a ranger, you can become a guide. It's a wonderful job.
Endless opportunities.
You can become a wildlife photographer, or you can become an anti-poaching ranger, or you can become a tracker, or you can combine some of them.
And each one being equally fascinating one to
Each
the
one.
other.
So I think once you decide that that's what you want to do, then there are. Yes, I'd like to work with animals. So, okay, well, maybe a conservation officer or an anti-poaching ranger. There are many educations within those fields. Once you decided that that's what you want to do, then you can do a search on the net. What are the different opportunities here? I want to become an anti-poaching ranger. I think anti-poaching rangers is a very fascinating job indeed. It never will pay you.
But the thing is, nobody ever hears of that. That's even a job that's available.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're at school looking for a career, nobody says, "How about being an anti-poaching officer?" Nobody ever says that.
No, exactly.
Or a tracker. Nobody says that.
No.
So, and this is why Jobs Out the Box is here to say, "Hey guys, you could be an anti-poaching officer."
Exactly,
Yeah.
and then you're also working in this field. You are making a major contribution to the planet.
Wow.
Which takes me to the jacket that you were wearing. I need to quote one of the pictures. I do not take the future of the planet for granted. Neither should you.
That was
And
touching.
it was a beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and I thought, wow. We looked at it and thought, I like that. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that jacket?
It is actually that saying comes from a good friend of mine, John Varty.
Yes.
He's a major conservationist and has been a filmmaker in the film industry for a very, very long time. And he is, in his heart, he's a real activist.
Yeah.
And he will do whatever it takes to fulfill the ideas that he has to preserve and conserve.
Okay.
And it sometimes is very controversial, and not everybody agrees with it.
Okay.
But that's okay,
Yeah.
because you can't please everybody.
True.
And unless you try new ways, you will never know if they were better than the ones we used before.
Out the
Correct.
box.
Correct.
So out the box, you have to trust yourself, and if you really believe something, you have to trust that it's at least worth a try.
Yes. Yes, yes.
And
I hope that you're hearing this.
Yeah.
At least it's worth a try.
it definitely
Yeah.
is. And you know, you may or may not be successful with that project.
That's okay.
But that's okay. You know, then at least you learn something, and from there might lead you on to a different way of doing that project, just slightly different, that will be successful. But you will never know unless you do it.
Correct. And, you know, funny enough, we were talking just before we were on camera, you know, Jobs Out the Box was launched in 2006.
Yeah.
And here we are today, literally 15 years later, and it's become a reality.
Yeah.
You know, and it was born through a passion, through this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it felt like a calling that I needed to do this program. And a good friend of mine said, Lionel, you know, you've been given this gift of this program, and if you don't see it through, you'll never be given a gift again. And that kind of put the fear into me, and I thought, I actually need to make it happen. And so, you know, so to make it happen today is hugely significant because it's been my passion for so long. It's been in my body, in my blood, and you know, so the fact that you're sharing the space with us today is hugely indebted, and feel hugely grateful that you're here.
I'm very grateful to be here,
you
to be
know,
able to share and maybe inspire.
Yes, and to change the lives and at least the mindsets or thinking patterns of children or young adults out there who had no idea that this exists, you know.
Talking about, I gave a talk very recently to, it's a women's organization, and they have chapters all around the world, and what they do, they raise funds and they uplift underprivileged women and help them find a way in life, and sometimes they put in money, sometimes I help them with education, etc., etc. So I was thinking, so they asked me, can you give us a talk? And I was thinking, how can this talk benefit these underprivileged? They can't go out and buy a camera.
Correct.
They can't afford it. That's it. So I was then thinking, but you know, there is a field. Now we're going back to the anti-poaching again.
Yes.
And there is a trend around the world now that a lot of anti-poaching rangers are women now.
Okay.
So not a lot in comparison to men, it's about 11%. Talking about anti-poaching, there is a trend now around the world where females are getting involved in anti-poaching. And at the moment there's about 11% of all anti-poaching rangers around the world that are female, and it's a growing number.
Yes. So it might not sound like a lot, but comparison to what it was before,
Comparison
this is huge.
to what it was 15 years ago, there were none.
Yeah. So,
right?
yeah, so that's...
So it's pretty amazing actually, and this particular profession for women, women have proven to be incredible anti-poaching rangers. They're dedicated. They are not so easy to corrupt. They're also entrenched in the communities in a different way than the men are. So they spread the message of conservation to children, to friends, to...
And I guess there's also that maternal instinct that
That's
kicks
right.
in.
So don't kill my animals.
Right.
It's a different thing. So the female anti-poaching rangers are passionate. They're powerful in so many ways. And if you look at a woman that gets now an opportunity from an underprivileged little village in Africa, she gets an opportunity to be trained, right?
Wow.
And so she learns how all the tricks of the wild, and she becomes a ranger. Now she gets to train. She learns how to shoot. She learns weaponry.
And all this is multilingual, of course.
In what way?
Well, the thing is that
Well,
it doesn't have to be in English.
No,
they
of
don't
course
have to
not.
speak the
Wherever
language.
they are.
Correct. And
wherever
we
if they
can
are in
teach them
Congo, then
practically.
that's going to happen in Congo.
Yes.
If it's then you know it's going to be in French or whatever, or their local language or wherever they are, and then on top of that, now they're going to learn. They're going to get a driver's license because they have to drive the vehicles.
Correct.
So suddenly, going from being an underprivileged woman with no future, living in her hut, she even if she does, or maybe in her mother's hut, right?
Yeah.
She's now having a job. She's earning money, although she's not going to get rich, but she is earning money.
Yes.
She's got an education. She's got a driver's license. She's got a weaponry license.
And a uniform.
And a uniform.
Yeah.
And she has a purpose.
And a
now
heart.
she can go back to her village, and she's become somebody as well.
And she becomes the hero.
Now and she now with that money, she can purchase her own property. She can school her kids.
There we go.
So it's an incredible upliftment for women in the anti-poaching arena,
Yes.
it's an incredible upliftment.
Wow.
And for the world.
For the world, that's it, you know.
So it works all the way. And obviously, men are equally important.
Yeah.
You know, you can't
Always,
just have
always.
women and
No,
just
sure.
have men.
Yeah.
It's actually, but I think
to make space.
most
Yeah.
of the units are either men or women, you
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
because there are certain things that
Yes. Yeah.
makes it easier if it's separate. So,
Yeah.
but so you have quite a few fully female unit anti-poachings around,
Fabulous.
and
Absolutely
and it
fabulous.
is incredible actually. And so I would say, if you're passionate about conservation or nature and you're coming from an underprivileged background, what a job! What
Yes,
a,
and
what
there's
a
hope for you.
what a pride to
Yes,
take,
Yes.
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 and to be acknowledged for what you can give as an individual.
You know, I'm getting all goosey
With
just
all
listening to
that
this.
power
Yeah.
that comes from inside, you know, it's amazing, and it goes for men as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is definitely. I mean, like I said, you're never going to get rich, and it's
But at least you're getting you've got purpose and you're doing something
You
for the
have
greater
Yeah,
to
good.
you're
purpose.
waking up every day
Yeah.
doing something. With that being said, you know, I wanted to know, what does it take to make it in this profession? You know, you've got all these beautiful stories, but I want to know from you, what does it take to make it in this profession?
perseverance.
I was going to say guts.
A lot of it.
Because this is my next question. Have you ever been chased by a wild animal?
We can combine the two. Yeah.
Are we talking about anti-poaching? Are we talking about
Well, generally.
wildlife photography? I don't know.
Whichever.
I don't think I've ever been chased by an animal.
Okay.
Never. No. I have been. There's been the odd rogue elephant that's been angry, but with the communication and everything, we've turned that situation around to become very benign.
Okay.
I think one of the probably most intense situations was when I ended up in the middle of a herd of about 2,000 buffaloes
Ooh.
in my car, and I had buffaloes like this
Wow.
on every side, and that was pretty intense. It was exciting though.
Yes, I can
I was
imagine.
like, wow. It wasn't, it was this, I was in the car, I was with
vibration,
my
yeah.
family at the time. My kids were small and they were in the back, and we had taken the wrong route and we were lost
Okay.
in Botswana, and it had been a lot of rain, so we couldn't cross on the over the places where we wanted to cross. The rivers were flooding and the roads were flooding. So we were like, now what? Okay, well, we're just going to go that way.
Were you
Because
steering
what are
the
we going
ship
to
at
do?
that
But there were no
time?
roads to take because
Yes.
they were all flooded. And we feel the vibration in the ground.
Yeah.
It's like,
Lion
what's
King.
going on? And it's like, oh my God, look, there's just a white big cloud of this dust,
Yes.
this white dust. And there comes the buffaloes just in thousands, just
Wow.
on every side of the car. And it was like, oh my God. And people said, but weren't you afraid they're going to run into the car? But they don't run into things, do
No,
they?
no.
I mean, they don't run into
They have
trees
eyes.
either.
No,
They have
exactly.
I mean,
eyes.
exactly. So they would navigate wherever they run. So obviously they weren't going to run into the car, but it was just having them like this close.
Sure.
That was intense, but it was it was a very exciting experience. So I think when it comes to choosing a profession like this, I think it boils down to passion
Okay.
and perseverance. Is this what you want? Then go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go. Just do it. You know.
And this is not for the faint-hearted, clearly.
It is not for the faint-hearted, but I think you grow with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can be faint-hearted when you start, but you
there's
grow with
courage that
it.
you
Yes.
work on.
Yes.
You grow into it and you
Okay.
become brave. You know, but the more you know about it, the less dangerous it seems, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so it is
yeah.
with everything.
Correct.
So when we get into something, ooh, I don't want to do that. That
Yeah.
seems scary. But the moment you've done it and you know how to do it, then it's not scary anymore.
You won't know it until you try it.
That's
Love it.
right.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jutta, for having shared your inspiring story with us and for having given us a far broader view on what we thought was just going to be a wildlife photographer. So deeply, deeply thankful for having taken the time to come to us and to be in studio with us and to share your knowledge and your passion. We felt your passion, but to me it felt like the buffalo
You know,
that we're
Lion
going
King.
past. It just felt beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Peliso.
Thank you for inviting me and for letting me share.
Great pleasure. To you all in the audience, thank you for having sat through another edition of Jobs Out the Box. I think the same as what I'm feeling. This was hugely interesting and passionate, and wow, I certainly would do anything to be in your shoes and to go out there and spend a while in the bush with you and just get up close and feel the animals the way you described it. Beautiful. So thank you all for watching. We look forward to seeing you all again in another episode of Jobs Out the Box coming up soon. Take care.